Hi, Colin Christensen here with SO Summit, and I'm sitting down with Todd Porter, who, from what I understand, you're the one of the curators for TEDx Tokyo. Is that right?
Yeah.
So give us a little bit more about your background as well as your involvement with TEDx Tokyo.
Okay. Undergrad, I had the fortune to study around the world. So after that, I worked with Bain & Company for about 18 months and then joined Ashoka, which is the first social entrepreneur foundation. Then quickly helped a new startup in Washington, Public Allies, get a grant to be a national pilot, and then Michelle Obama became our head of our Chicago pilot. I was briefly at one of the first online networks, then went to Stanford Business School, founded a company while a student with one of the professors' innovation learning company. And then after that joined Chris Anderson at Imagine Media, which was a media company that had like Business 2.0 and so on. And while I was working there, he was looking at buying the TED conference for his foundation. And this was all before TED videos were online, so once I received a box of 20 years worth of TED talks on CD-ROM, I realized, wow, something very special is going on here, and at some point I wanted to do more with that. And then when I got to Tokyo, I saw that something like the TED Talks and the TED Conference is the perfect starting point to get an economy to look at new options, innovative directions.
Excellent. So from all that, what brings you here to Kansas City to the SO Summit?
Sure. Well, earlier this year, last year, I was one of the organizers of GEW in Tokyo. And as part of that, earlier this year, we had the global gathering in Dubai. The Kauffman Foundation brought all of the global organizers of GEW to Dubai, sort of like this conference is bringing all the startup weekend organizers around the world together. And so I spent time with Mark, head of Startup Weekend, and Chris, head of Startup Digest. We started talking a lot about what it takes to really kickstart an ecosystem. And I personally think that the bottom-up things like TEDx, Startup Weekend, are really where sort of new ecosystems, really the communities come that becomes like a platform for identifying what are the new needs and incubating them. So I really believe in those type of models that really taps the passion that a lot of people have to make things happen and contribute.
Excellent. So of all the experiences that you have there, what is one of the most unique stories that you have that is just inspirational? It could be a situation that evoked massive amount of realizations, but what is your best story?
Related to Startup Weekend or in general?
Just in general. It sounds like you got a lot of experiences, and so I'd love to tap your mind for realizations.
Sure. Well, for me, when I think about, for example, since what I've spent most of my time on the past 2 years is related to doing a series of TEDx events.
Yeah.
So what I like the most is, for example, I met this one young Japanese woman in Tokyo who had been in America, come back, and was missing the energy she felt in Silicon Valley. But as one person in sort of a conservative society like Japan, she was starting to lose confidence about how did she get started, how did she find a community and to start making things happen. And so just by us having a chance encounter at one event, seeing her progress over the last 18 months has just been amazing. I mean, she gained confidence by being part of producing the first TEDx Tokyo. She later founded our young version of TEDx Tokyo and has become an amazing leader for Japan. And so just giving people the opportunity to be part of a real project, connect with a community of spirited people, and then seeing them blossom, I think just really shows what school should be about, what work should be about, what life should be about. So that, in a microcosm, I see that with many people just every day in the sort of things that we're doing.
Absolutely. So one of the big questions I want to end with is you're talking about all these organizations that are spreading good in the world. So from a specific to a you kind of standpoint, what is it that you bring to the table to make the world culture a better place with your personality?
I guess I'd say two things. One is that I genuinely get great joy of seeing people have an opportunity to blossom. And so because of that, even on everybody on our volunteer team, for example, 80-person volunteer team, I want to know what is their big dream so that I can think of them not as a volunteer getting one task done, but how can they how can we find the right task that's at the right level for them to develop to the next stage, and then gradually find their own vision for the big thing that only they could build. And I guess the genuine enjoyment of that translates so that people trust me and want to work on projects. And then I guess the other thing is, loving to explore and crossing different networks. I spot all sorts of different opportunities for this person should meet this person. Here's a gap. And so by just crossing lots of different networks, I find that surprisingly a lot of people stay in one or two networks and don't see a lot of these opportunities that are all over the place.
Essentially, you're basically bridging communities and helping ideas spread from one industry to the next, as well as people finding their place in those industries. Love it. Thanks for coming on, Todd.
Cool.
Thanks for being here in Kansas City.